Hey, church family, thank you for joining us for today's Daily Connection video. We are continuing to talk about how God can redeem our failures, that in the midst of our weaknesses, God can somehow use those things for His glory. And we're going to pick up, continuing to talk about this thorn in the flesh that we mentioned a couple days ago in verse 7. Brother Brent walked through yesterday. Paul's begging the Lord to remove this thorn from his flesh. And today we're going to look at verse 9 and see the Lord's response to Paul's question. It says in chapter 12 of 2 Corinthians, verse 9, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is perfected in weakness. Therefore I will most gladly boast all the more about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may reside in me." You notice that the Lord mentions grace. He says, my grace is sufficient to you. Right? And so that grace, what is grace? Grace is part of what we receive, right? Grace is what we receive that allows us to experience salvation. We need the grace of God in order to be saved, but grace is even more than that. Grace is what helps us live out our salvation. As Paul says, work out our salvation on a daily basis to continue to live the way that Christ has called us to live. And living that life looks pretty easy, right? Whenever everything's going really, really well. When things are going the way that you intended them to go, then people expect you to live well. But it's whenever whenever life is not going well, that's when people start really paying attention to how you're living. And I think that's a great time of test for Christians. When our life is not going the way that it's supposed to do, how do we respond? And the reality is, and what Jesus is making clear to Paul here, is it's in those moments of weakness that his grace is sufficient. That if we are going to continue to live well when our life is not going well, it's not going to be because we're strong or we are good. It's going to be because of the grace of Jesus Christ that's being poured out on us. It's going to be because we rely on that grace and we trust that grace to be sufficient for us on a day in and day out kind of basis. And it's in those moments of great weakness as we rely on the grace that God has given us, when we continue to show kindness and we continue to show patience and we continue to endure through hardships. It's in those moments when we stand out from the crowd, when people begin to take notice and they can truly see Christ in us. And so can I just encourage you that as you face difficult times in your life, and they're coming, for many of you, they have come already, but they will come again. As we face those difficult times, it's in those moments that we lean into the grace of Jesus Christ, and we do not allow ourselves to plummet off the cliff of despair, but instead trust in the grace of Jesus, that his mercies are new every day, and that he will give us the strength that we need every day, so that the lost and dying world who will look at us and say, I don't understand how they continue to go on. And we can, instead of pointing to ourselves, point to the one who carries us through. And that is our Lord Jesus Christ. Our author gives us a couple of questions for us to look at. The first one is, in your own words, what is the grace of God? And then the second question, why did God refuse to remove Paul's thorn? And as you write this question, take note of your answer. And just remember that there may come a day when you face something difficult or you struggle with your own thorn in the flesh and you ask God, why won't you remove this? So remember your answer right here. Remember why he wouldn't remove Paul's. It's so that his grace would be made known to all of mankind. And the reason why we face these difficult times and we have to rely on the Lord is so that the Lord's grace can be known to all of mankind. Church family, I hope that you will make that grace known, that you will rely on the Lord in both good and times of sorrow. As you do that, we want you to know that we love you and we're praying for you.